They left, but the damage stayed. You survived the goodbye, but not the silence that followed. You still check the door, the phone, the mirror, like they're ghost lives in every reflection. Some days you function, other days you pretend, and all the while something inside you keeps whispering, this wasn't just love, it was identity. And now that they're gone, you don't know who the hell you are without them. This isn't heartbreak, this is dismemberment. The kind that tears through your pride, your habits, your sense of control, and leaves you crawling through memories that lie better than the person ever did. And you? You keep replaying the good parts, because they hurt less than admitting it was never what you needed. But this time, we're not here to soothe you. We're here to rebuild you. Part 2 begins now, and it's where Stoicism meets the raw, psychological clarity of Jordan Peterson. We're not just giving you quotes, we're giving you fire. We're forging the version of you who doesn't need to be chosen, texted back, or loved to feel complete. The Stoics taught us how to face fate with dignity. Peterson shows us how to carry that fate like a cross and not collapse beneath it. Marcus Aurelius said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Peterson would add, "Confront the dragon voluntarily, or it will burn your house down while you sleep." Put them together and you get a weapon, a way of thinking that's ancient in strength and modern in precision. This is not theory. This is survival, psychological, emotional, existential. Before we begin, take a breath. Then do this. Like the video if this already cuts close. Subscribe to Victory Stoic. We're just getting started. Drop a 1 in the comments if this is the series you've been waiting for. Drop a 0 if it's not hitting yet. Either way, we read it all. We build from it. And if you've got a story, share it. You're not alone in this wreckage. Let's take what shattered you and make it the reason you never break again. Let's begin. Number 7. You didn't lose them. You just got yourself back. Before they walked into your life, you were someone. You had routines, desires, fears, and dreams that were yours. But somewhere along the line, you gave that up, quietly, gradually, without even noticing. You started living around their schedule, their moods, their validation. You made their presence your peace, their approval your oxygen, their love your mirror. So when they left, it didn't feel like a breakup. It felt like extinction, like you ceased to exist the moment they stopped choosing you. But what if that's not the tragedy? What if that's the gift? What if you didn't lose someone? You were just returned to the version of yourself you abandoned. There's a kind of relationship that doesn't just end. It leaves you hollow, disoriented, like you just woke up from a long dream with no memory of who you were before it started. That's not love. That's self-erasure. And the truth is painful, but necessary. You didn't just grieve them. You grieved the part of yourself that only existed through their eyes. But here's the Stoic truth. What is lost externally can lead to reclamation internally. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If you spent years thinking only of them, you've been wearing someone else's colors. Now, washed in grief, you are blank again. And that is terrifying, but it is also power. Because for the first time in a long time, you get to decide who you are without needing their reflection to prove it. Take Michael, 40, from San Diego. After his divorce, he didn't just feel alone, he felt formless. His wife had always been the planner, the social one, the stable presence. Without her, Michael felt like static. He would wake up and stare at the wall, not cry, just float. He didn't know what to eat, where to go, what to care about. Not because he lacked intelligence, but because he had offloaded his identity to her over the course of a decade. His grief wasn't about her absence, it was about his own vacancy. It took months before he made a move. One afternoon, he picked up a journal and wrote a single question. What did I like before I met her? It hit like a punch. He couldn't answer. That scared him more than the divorce. But it also woke him up. He began to rebuild, slowly. Bought a guitar, took a solo road trip, deleted all shared playlists, stopped trying to make his healing look impressive. And over time, something changed. Not a dramatic breakthrough, but a quiet return to a voice he'd forgotten he had. Jordan Peterson says, compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who someone else is today. That principle cuts deepest in heartbreak. When they leave, your instinct is to fix yourself, to get hotter, smarter, richer, more desirable. You want them to see you and regret leaving. But that's just another performance, another form of self-abandonment disguised as revenge. Real power doesn't come from changing for them. It comes from finding out who you were before you thought being loved meant being less. From a psychological standpoint, this is called identity diffusion, a loss of self-definition that happens when someone's sense of purpose, preferences, or direction is overly tied to another person. And unless you address that fracture directly, you will carry it into every future relationship. You'll keep shape-shifting, keep pleasing, keep abandoning yourself in the name of staying close to someone else. Until you learn, closeness means nothing if it costs you you. So how do you start returning to yourself? Step 1. Write a pre-them list. List every activity, place, food, artist, book, or habit you loved before they entered your life. If the list is short, good. That means the work is urgent. Pick one item, revisit it. Even if it feels dull now, stay with it. You're not chasing nostalgia. You're rebuilding muscle memory. Step 2. Define yourself without roles. Don't describe yourself as someone's ex, someone's parent, someone's job title. Describe your values. What do you believe in when no one's watching? What do you stand for when love isn't on the line? Create a sentence that starts with, I am the kind of person who. Then live like it's law. Step 3. Create a no more contract. Write out all the things you gave up in that relationship. Hobbies, boundaries, self-respect, time. Then write this sentence, I will never trade these for temporary belonging again. Sign it, date it, keep it where you can see it. You are making a vow, not to never love again, but to never lose yourself to love again. Seneca wrote, as long as you live, keep learning how to live. Maybe that's what this heartbreak is. Not punishment, but a re-education. A crash course in how to be you again. You were not born to orbit someone else's gravity. You were born to be whole. And if that sounds cliche, it's because you've only heard it in self-help books, not felt it in your bones. You will. When the quiet no longer scares you, when your own company no longer feels like waiting, when your laughter doesn't echo with loneliness, but with ownership. Still watching? Still breathing? Comment 7 if you know this one wasn't just a message. It was you on the floor, realizing the one thing you feared, being left, was the one thing that set you free. You didn't lose the love of your life. You just got your own life back. Now live it like no one else owns it. Number 8. Don't write new chapters with people who were only ever meant to be a page you keep going back. Maybe not in person, but in thought, in memory, in silence. You replay the words, you analyze the tone, you wonder if maybe, just maybe, it could still work if something changed, if they changed, if you changed. But deep down you know, this story already ended, and every time you reach for them again, you're not reviving love. You're reopening the wound. The problem isn't that they left, the problem is that you won't let them stay gone. Every time you reread the texts, scroll their photos, check their status, you're writing another paragraph in a chapter that was already closed. You're not getting clarity, you're getting re-addicted. You're not healing, you're delaying. And they're not thinking about you the way you think about them. Because if they were, you wouldn't be alone in the remembering. This is what rips you open after a breakup. Not the silence, but the hope. That quiet, desperate little hope that somehow this isn't over. That maybe you misread the ending. That maybe they'll come back and say the words you needed all along. But hope, when it's aimed backward, is just a slow-acting poison. You can't start your future if your heart is still camped in their past. The Stoics were ruthless about this. Clean separation, no revisiting. Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. They knew that memory is a liar. It shows you the highlight reel, not the truth. It makes you nostalgic for someone who no longer exists, or maybe never did. You have to ask yourself a brutal question. Are you in love with the person, or with the potential you created for them in your head? Take Claire, 37, from Austin. She broke up with her boyfriend of 2 years after discovering he'd been emotionally involved with someone else. Not a full betrayal, but enough to break her trust. She ended it. But for the next 6 months, she stalked his online activity, checked mutual friends' stories, hoped to hear that he regretted everything. When he messaged her on her birthday with a casual, hope you're good, she took it as a sign. They reconnected, Hooked up, he left again, this time without explanation. She didn't just hurt. She felt stupid. Not because she missed him, but because she wrote a sequel for a man who didn't even finish the first book with her properly. And that's the trap. Thinking closure will come from one more conversation, one more night, one more chance. It won't. Closure is not given, it's chosen. It's when you look at the mess and say, this is the end. No matter how loud the memories scream, I don't owe them another word. Jordan Peterson puts it like this: when you have something to say, silence is a lie. But the inverse is also true. When there's nothing more to say, speaking is a trap. You talk, not because you believe something new will happen, but because you're afraid of what will happen if you stop trying. Afraid of the void, the finality, the death of a fantasy. But you need that death, that silence, that gap between what was and what's next. That's where you stop being someone who waits and start becoming someone who walks. Here's what makes it worse. They often come back, not with intention, but with access. A message, a like, a vague apology. Not to rebuild, just to remind you they still exist. And if you're not grounded, you take that breadcrumb and turn it into a meal. You start writing a new chapter on a book that was already shelved, burned, buried. They didn't come back to write with you. They came back to remind you they still could. Don't take the bait. Not every knock on the door deserves to be answered. Here's what to do. Don't block to punish, block to protect. You think you're being mature by staying connected. But there's nothing mature about torturing yourself with access to someone who no longer chooses you. Blocking isn't childish, it's surgical. It's how you amputate cleanly. Don't revisit what you already decided to leave. You made a choice. You had reasons. Don't let the loneliness of 2 a.m. convince you those reasons vanished. Write them down if you have to. Reread your own pain when memory starts to sugarcoat the past. The mind romanticizes what the soul barely survived. Don't seek closure through conversation, seek it through consequence. You're not writing an essay, you're living a life. Their absence is their message. Don't chase their words. Chase your peace. Seneca said, the greatest remedy for anger is delay. The same applies to longing. Delay the urge. Starve the curiosity. Every time you resist the impulse to reach out, you're taking your power back in doses. You don't owe anyone another chance to confuse you. What was said has been said. What was broken has been broken. The door is closed. Burn the draft. Write something new with your name at the center, not theirs. Number 9. Do one painful thing on purpose every day. Forge the blade you'll need. It's 5 a.m. The alarm slices through the dark like a blade. Your body begs you to stay buried in the warmth. The world is quiet, safe, still. You could sleep another hour. No one would know. No one would care, except for the voice inside. The one that knows you're either getting stronger or getting softer. So you get up. Not because it feels good, but because you're building something harder than comfort. You're building the version of yourself that doesn't break when life does. Pain will come for you either way. The question is, do you wait for it, or do you meet it first? When heartbreak tears you apart, when life unroots your plans, when you feel powerless, you have two options: collapse into softness, or forge into steel. And forging requires fire, it requires pressure, it requires pain chosen, not inflicted. That's the difference between surviving and becoming unbreakable. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. Epictetus, once a crippled slave, wrote, "Difficulties are things that show what men are." Pain isn't punishment. It's permission to become someone no longer governed by fear, comfort, or weakness. This isn't a motivational slogan. It's war. Because you are not just recovering from heartbreak, you are recovering from who you let yourself become in comfort. Lazy, reactive, addicted to approval, reliant on love to give your life meaning. You got soft, and now softness makes you sick. The only antidote is deliberate hardship, not trauma, training. Take John, 44, from Montana. His wife left after 16 years. No fight, no affair. Just a quiet decay of intimacy and purpose. When she left, he spiraled. Drank too much, lost 10 pounds, couldn't sleep. Until one night, staring into the bottle, he realized he hadn't done one hard thing by choice in years. He'd avoided conflict, avoided growth, avoided discomfort. His whole life had been a system of convenience, and it had cost him everything. So he made a rule: one painful act per day. Something small, something intentional, and something non-negotiable. That first week it was cold showers. Not long, just long enough to make him flinch. Then he added push-ups. Then 5 a.m. runs, 5 miles farther than he thought he could. Then a brutal audit of his bank account. Then therapy. Then journaling every morning with 0 excuses. John didn't move on. He moved forward. And the man he is now? He doesn't flinch at silence. Doesn't check his phone for validation. Doesn't beg to be loved. Because he has turned his own discipline into home. Jordan Peterson writes, "Pursue what is meaningful, not what is expedient. Expedience is sleeping in, scrolling, hiding, numbing. Meaning is choosing the thing that hurts now, because it strengthens you later." That's what daily pain does. It inoculates you against weakness. It teaches your nervous system that resistance is not a threat, it's a signal that you're evolving. There's neuroscience behind this. Exposure to controlled stressors, cold, heat, exertion, activates the prefrontal cortex, the brain center for willpower, focus, and emotional regulation. This isn't philosophy, it's biology. When you voluntarily do something painful, your brain builds circuitry that makes you more resilient, not just physically, but emotionally. So if you're still shattered over someone who left, good. Let the pain be your forge. But don't sit in it, weaponize it. Start here. Wake up at 5 a.m. for 30 days. No excuses, no snoozing, no explaining. You get up when it hurts because you said you would. This isn't about being productive. It's about becoming someone whose word means something to himself. Take 1 cold shower per day. It'll shock you. Your skin will scream, but after 60 seconds, your breath will slow, your mind will sharpen. You'll learn pain isn't fatal, it's fuel. Cut all entertainment for 7 days. No movies, no scrolling, no background noise. Just you, your thoughts, your hunger, your silence. This will feel like death because you're used to noise filling the gaps where identity should be. Let the gaps speak. Pick one exercise and push it. It doesn't matter what it is. Running, lifting, hiking. But don't stop when you want to. Run 5 kilometers past the urge to quit. Do reps until your body trembles. Let your lungs scream and your sweat blind you. Then collapse on your terms. This is how you learn control. Before bed, reflect. 1 sentence. What pain did I choose today? What did it teach me? No fluff. No false pride. Just truth. Marcus Aurelius said, "If it's endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining." But this isn't just about enduring. It's about inviting. Because the man who walks into fire every morning doesn't fear the flames that come at night. You've been looking for healing and comfort. That's why you're still broken. Healing lives in the cold, in the dark, in the silence between the pain you want to avoid and the power you haven't yet unlocked. Don't wait for strength to arrive. Go out and bleed into it. Run until your thoughts go silent. Sweat until grief gets quieter. And when sleep comes, let it be earned, not escaped. You are the blacksmith. The pain is the forge. The body is the blade. And the man you're becoming, he's the weapon. Number 10. The strongest revenge is becoming the man they can never touch again. You keep imagining the day they'll see you again. Maybe by accident, maybe online, maybe in person. Doesn't matter. What matters is they look and they regret. You don't say a word. You don't gloat. You don't seek revenge. You just exist, sharp and composed like the scar they left only made you harder to kill. That moment, that vision, it keeps you breathing some nights. But what if I told you that's not fantasy? That can be real. Not as performance, not as payback, but as the natural result of becoming untouchable. Because here's what they never expect, that the version of you they walked away from was the worst version they'll ever know. And what comes after, the man who survived their absence, rebuilt in silence, and rose without them, that version isn't for them. That version is the punishment. The Stoics didn't believe in revenge. They believed in elevation. Epictetus said, "It is not he who reviles or strikes you who insults you, but your opinion that these things are insulting." So don't waste your time plotting how to make them feel your pain. That's weakness. That's drama. And it gives them power they no longer deserve. The most devastating consequence for someone who underestimated your worth is having to witness your transformation from the outside. Watching what could have been, but will never be again. Take Ryan, 38, from Chicago. His girlfriend left him for someone more ambitious. She said it like a compliment, as if he was a nice guy but just not ready. For 6 months, Ryan spiraled, drank more, stopped going to the gym, played the victim, until one night he saw a picture of her with the new guy. Perfect smiles, matching vacation outfits, and something broke. Not from jealousy, but from realization. She didn't see his potential, because he never showed it to her. He had settled into comfort, into softness, into the illusion that love meant never needing to grow again. So he changed. Not to win her back, to win himself back. He got sober, started a business, built muscle and focus and structure like his life depended on it. 2 years later, he saw her again, accidentally, at a friend's event. Her face said it all, the silent calculation, the micro regret. But Ryan didn't feel victorious. He felt indifferent, because the man standing in that room was not the man she left. He wasn't acting strong. He was strong, and she no longer had access. That's the quiet power. That's the weight of a transformation no one saw coming. Jordan Peterson writes, "Don't let your resentment make you weak. Let it shape your aim." Translation, don't let what they did turn you into a victim. Let it light a fuse so deep and so disciplined that your very existence becomes a testament to what they lost. From a psychological standpoint, this works. Studies on post-traumatic growth show that intentional self-improvement after emotional loss creates higher confidence, clarity, and long-term resilience. People who use grief as fuel rather than a cage don't just heal, they evolve, not from spite, from vision. And here's the truth. People remember your silence more than your screams. You don't need to prove you've changed, you don't need to post about it. The real power is when they realize they're not even part of the version of you that finally made it out. That's the punishment. And it's also the reward. So how do you start building that version? Step 1. Starve the performance. Stop pretending, stop hinting, stop leaving breadcrumbs online hoping they'll notice. The version of you they hurt is not your marketing campaign. It's over. Let the silence speak. Step 2. Build your schedule like it's your kingdom. Wake up early. Train hard. Read harder. Create, earn, expand. Not to impress anyone, to become someone you never again abandon, just to be loved. Step 3. Close the door and lock it. They will circle back through text, through friends, through nostalgia. Don't entertain it. That version of you is dead. And if you resurrect it for their comfort, you kill everything you've bled to rebuild. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." You don't owe them a lesson. You owe yourself a legacy. Let them miss you. Let them wonder. Let them scroll. But don't let them back in. Not because you're angry, but because they no longer belong in the chapter where you rise. Still with us? Comment 10 if you know the most beautiful version of you is not the one they broke, but the one they'll never touch again. The one who no longer needs to be seen to know his worth. The one who forged himself in fire and kept walking forward, eyes cold, heart clean, and purpose sharper than any apology could ever match. Number 11. Letting go isn't weakness. It's power you finally chose. You think holding on makes you strong. You think fighting for them, forgiving them, waiting for them, proves your loyalty. You call it love. You call it hope. You call it patience. But let's tell the truth. What you're calling strength is really fear dressed up in devotion. Fear of being alone, fear of starting over, fear of admitting that someone you gave your heart to would rather live without it. So you stay. In the waiting, in the wishing, you hold on. Not because you're brave, but because you're terrified of what their absence will force you to face in yourself. But here's the cold truth you've been avoiding. They already left. Maybe not physically, but emotionally, energetically, consistently. They're not choosing you with the same hunger you keep choosing them. And every day you keep clinging to that is a day you say, "I'm willing to shrink so you don't have to grow." That isn't love. That's self-abandonment. The Stoics understood something we've forgotten in the age of begging and breadcrumbed hope. To hold on to someone who doesn't want to stay is to insult your own dignity. Epictetus said, "He who is not happy with what he has will not be happy with what he gets." And if you keep reaching for someone who's slipping away, you'll lose more than just them. You'll lose your grip on yourself. Letting go is not quitting. It's reclaiming. It's stepping out of the emotional prison you locked yourself into and choosing, finally, to stop giving love to someone who no longer knows what to do with it. Take Morgan, 36, from New Jersey. She was in a 4-year relationship with a man who stopped trying after year 2. The texts got shorter, the plans got fewer, the touch got colder. But every time she tried to leave, he'd say just enough to keep her doubting. "I'm just going through something. I still care. Let's just see where things go." And Morgan stayed. Not because she didn't see the truth, but because she was addicted to the potential of who he could have been, to the version of him she loved and kept hoping would return. But one morning, after waking up next to him and feeling more alone than when she was actually alone, she snapped. Not with rage, with clarity. She packed a bag, left no note, blocked the number, and walked straight into the fear she had avoided for years. Living without the person who had already emotionally abandoned her long ago. And that's when her real life began. Jordan Peterson says, "If you're not willing to be a fool, you can't become a master." Letting go makes you feel like a fool. Like all your love, your loyalty, your time was wasted. But that's not true. You needed to learn where your limits are, what love isn't, and who you become when your pain stops pretending to be purpose. From a psychological lens, this is attachment trauma, the compulsion to stay loyal to inconsistency, to fight for relationships that mirror early wounds, to confuse love with survival. But your nervous system doesn't need another round of hope and letdown. It needs peace, closure, distance. And that only comes when you choose to walk, even if your heart is still crawling. So how do you do it? Step 1, make it physical. Remove their things, delete the chats, unfollow, unfriend, not to punish them, to protect your boundary with reality. The version of you that clings lives in those digital ghosts. Burn them. Step 2, write this down, word for word. If they wanted to stay, they would. If they wanted me, they'd act like it. If they cared, I wouldn't have to keep guessing. Read it every time nostalgia tries to lie to you. Step 3, practice daily detachment. Anytime they come up in your thoughts, repeat, "This thought is not useful." Then do something physical. Push-ups, ice water, walk outside, move your body until the thought fades. You're training your brain to stop associating pain with loyalty. Marcus Aurelius said, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love." But to love doesn't mean to cling. To love means to release what wounds you so you can remain whole enough to love again, without bitterness, without apology. This isn't your final loss. It's your first act of power. The moment you chose self-respect over self-sacrifice. The day you realized letting go wasn't weakness. It was the only move that reminded you, you're the one with the door. You're the one with the key. And from now on, only those who fight to stay get to come in. Conclusion, they left and you survived. But survival isn't the victory. Becoming untouchable is, they left and you didn't die. Not really. Though some nights it felt like your chest had been hollowed out and filled with smoke. Though mornings felt like waking up inside a house where someone had turned off all the lights and locked all the doors. You made it through that. That was step 1. But survival is not the destination. It's just the beginning. The question now isn't, will you make it? It's, what will you become? Because if all you do is survive, they still own a piece of you. They still shape your story, through absence, through silence, through the echo of a love that no longer returns your voice. You can't let that stand. This isn't about being cold. It's about being clear. You don't have to hate them. You don't have to wish them pain. But you owe it to yourself to become someone they can never touch again. Not because you blocked their number, but because they no longer meet the standard. A standard you rebuilt from the ashes they left you in. You let go not because the love died. You let go because you finally chose yourself. And you don't need anyone to validate that decision. You don't need closure. You don't need a final conversation. You don't need them to come back and say you were right or worthy or enough. You always were. You just needed to stop handing your worth to someone who didn't know what to do with it. This is your moment now. Not to chase, not to avenge, not to wait, but to build. Quietly. Relentlessly. Until the only thing they recognize, if they ever look again, is that the man they once knew is gone. And in his place stands someone they never deserved. If this message found something broken in you and helped you remember that you were never meant to stay broken, then don't leave without acting. Like this video if it hit where it needed to. Share it with someone still bleeding in silence. Subscribe to Victory Stoic if you're ready to rebuild with brutal clarity and ruthless honesty. And now, drop a comment below. 1 if this spoke to your truth. 0 if it didn't land. Either way, we listen. We read everything. Or better yet, tell us your story. Of loss, of letting go, of becoming someone the past no longer has permission to touch. Your words matter here. They don't disappear into a void. They build this movement. Thank you for watching. For staying. For facing the fire. This isn't the end. It's the point you stop asking who you were with them and start asking who you're finally ready to become without them.